to inflict pain on Jews or trying to be anti-Semitic, right? So that's one example.
I decided to come to Venice because I've never been to Europe or I've never been anywhere outside of the United States. And I heard that Dr. Afridi was running a study abroad trip to Venice. And I was really interested in taking a religion course with her again because I took a course with her 2 years ago and I really wanted to go abroad, so I decided that I wanted to come to Venice with Dr. Afridi.
Well, I'm half Italian. My mom is 100% Italian. My grandmother's been here many times. I've never had the chance before. This is my first time in Europe. And I thought it would be interesting to see a country where I have heritage and experience the culture of Italy. And also the class was interesting to me. I've heard that Professor Afridi was a great teacher, and it turns out that she really is amazing. I've really enjoyed learning about the different religions in Venice so far, and it just all prompted me to want to come on this trip.
Well, I decided to go on this trip for two reasons. One was because I wanted to take another religion course and see if a minor in religious studies was right for me, because I've been considering doing that. And then the other reason is that I have family here in Italy. My grandma's actually an Italian immigrant, and we have family that lives just an hour outside of Venice. So I kind of wanted to come closer to my roots and learn about that.
What were my expectations for the trip? This might sound like a weird answer, but I didn't have many expectations for the trip. Not in a bad way. I sometimes feel that when you set expectations and if they're not met, you leave with a wave of disappointment. And I didn't want that to happen. So before coming on the trip, I just decided to say whatever's going to happen will happen. What I see, I get to see, and that's how it'll all play out, and I'll just make the memories from there.
Academically, I was really fascinated by all like the religious cultures like going on in Venice, like everything about the Jewish ghetto, or like the structured parts of Venice, or like the architecture part. Because back then I used to like architecture. I used to like having to see buildings or like the different designs of what the buildings look like. And I'm also a big religious person myself. Like I always like knowing about the religious cultures. It doesn't matter which part. Even though I'm Catholic, I always like to see something about the Jewish cultures, about Muslim cultures, or anything about parts of like Europe or the other parts of the traditions. And seeing all of that like during this whole week that I've been in class, it was really fascinating to see like what they do, like what the traditions are, what they've experienced back in the past, and what they're going to be doing in the present.
It didn't turn out the way I thought it would. I didn't think that we'd be kind of learning while standing in the freezing cold in the ghetto. I don't really know what I expected. I definitely thought it might be a little bit more structured than it has been, but I kind of like the fluidity of it because it's really given us a chance to really understand what we're learning and kind of see it practically and not just learn about it in a classroom, which has been a really cool experience.
Expectation-wise, I was expecting it to be interactive, there's so much to see in Venice, and it's all very relevant to our course material, religion and art. That's literally everything you see somehow is related to either one or both of those things. So it was a perfect, I think, location for the course.
We visited the Jewish cemetery while we were here, and it was kind of like a whole new experience because they were very modest in how they do their burials. The gravestones weren't anything too great, they just were average. And instead of putting flowers at the grave, I learned that they would put stones instead because, you know, they were concrete, they stood for forever. Like a stone could stay there forever, but a flower will wilt away. And I kind of thought that was very powerful to see. And we actually saw the grave of this rabbi from the 16th, 17th century, Leon de Modena. And we had to read one of his books for the pre-reading for this course, and I thought it was kind of fascinating just to connect something I did before coming here, and then I was standing at his grave.
When we went to the Jewish cemetery and they talked about how, well, the tour guide discussed how The cemetery had an original plot of land that was then taken by the government for defense purposes. It just completed this narrative that we had been discussing about how the Venetian government treated the Jews. And that narrative has largely been one of subjugation. Jews were welcomed to Venice, that much is true, and they were able to build a culture and they were able to thrive here on their own terms in a limited aspect. That much is absolutely true. But if you take a step back and you analyze their role within the Venetian Republic, they were means to an end. They served the state good. They gave money to the Venetian government, where they were able to lend on behalf of Christians, and it was all commercial. Their role was all commercial. It wasn't because they were valued for being Jewish in the sense that their culture or they were equal to Christians. No, they had to do something. And going to the cemetery, we realized, yes, they served this purpose in the main city of Venice, but it wasn't because there was any respect for their religion. If there was any respect for their religion, then their burial practices would have been honored too. So I think that's really one of the many instances that stood out.
I mean, when I came on, I only really knew Susan as like roommate and her brother John, but like within like a couple of days, like with everybody, it felt like we were a family, and like it really made like going around easier. Like I think I've made friendships that like are gonna last. It was really nice to see like how we have a family. We had like a sit-down meal and like going places, and like all seeing everybody like learn together.
Well, going into the trip, I did sign up alone, so that was definitely intimidating and something that I was worried about, that I wasn't going to find people to hang out with because people had signed up with friends, and I thought that I was going to be left out of all the cliques. But I definitely did make some amazing friends here, and hopefully can remain friends with them after the trip. And it's cool to have the opportunity to live with people who I never would have lived with and talk about things in different perspectives and see how they feel about what we're learning and all that kind of thing.
Well, in that respect, I think everyone else has been great. Again, I came here with my friend Chris. I knew him, but we quickly became friends with everyone else here. We eat together, we explore together, we got lost together, as others have mentioned. That seems to be a common theme here in Venice. There's all these random alleyways and things, which your instincts tell you not to go down a dark alley, because in New York, you might get stabbed or something like that. But ultimately, in my experience here, sharing it with these people, we've played off of each other's ideas, got to experience some of the long days together, and learn these topics together. Everybody's insight has really been valuable to me as a person, because
I was excited to explore. That was definitely one of the biggest things. And I definitely was excited to start walking around and getting lost in the city, definitely. In New York, it's kind of hard to get lost because it's a grid system. So it's here, it's the streets just go everywhere. I really like getting just lost in places. So
definitely San Marco, because I don't know, it gave me a certain feeling. I don't know how to describe it, but just being in San Marco was completely different than anywhere else that I've ever been. There was so much life, and then just the history behind it that we were learning about, and then how the buildings were made with the Greek Orthodox cross. The lions that also came from Constantinople. There's just a lot of history from other countries that are in one area, and it's just crazy how everything is just found in one specific place and not all over.
It's hard. That's hard because everything, I think during the first week, I was so shocked with everything. When we first went to the Palazzo Ducale, and we, Dr. Savoy showed us around there, and I was just looking around, and I was like, I can't believe any of this. I couldn't really, it's hard to grasp because it's so amazing, how they could do all of that. And that was just the beginning of it. And then we did so much more, and I learned so much, and it's hard to sum it up in just a few minutes,
I'd say certain American standards, I wouldn't be radical at all. That would be just...
In line, waiting on a bridge, trying to get down. Yeah, Venetian's family are not so
this like far exceeding my expectations because I wasn't quite sure what aspects we would go into, and what caught my attention the most was the architectural and artistic like details that they put into these buildings that not only shaped the Christian religion and the culture, but also the like different cultures and religions of other nations. And just what stood out to me the most was within the Palazzo Ducale, when you're going up the staircase, you would look above, and not only would you see like the Christian stories and the different scenes, but you'd also see Greek and Roman mythology. You'd see the gods just up there as well, which is not something you'd normally expect from a relatively Christian domain. But I don't know, it spoke to me because that showed that not only are they involving the Christian religion, but they're also involving like the ancient Greeks and Romans, as if to say that Christianity like comes from them, and that with Christianity they're also guiding these other older ancient religions. And I thought that was extremely interesting how they incorporated multiple different aspects into Christianity.
Well, I really am going to take the way they live here and how they appreciate more. So when they're walking around, you notice things that you don't notice when you're hustling around New York City. Like, they appreciate art and the food and the buildings, the architecture, and it's just how they take things slower. I really enjoyed that aspect of their lifestyle here, so I'm really looking forward to taking that back and applying it to my life at home.
Oh wow, okay. Well, I mean, we've seen a million different landmarks. We've visited a million different places. You've seen things that you wish that you could just take a picture with your eyes and leave it in your mind for the rest of your life. But I would have to say I'm more of a people person. I get better experiences from the people I meet. So actually, funny enough, I spent a lot of time with Dr. Sunshine for my first 2 weeks, and I always tended to like walk in the back with her and just get her opinion on certain things, just talking. But she has this amazing insight to Venice, and she can walk throughout the city and remember every little part, and she's, oh, check this place out, and go here and go there, I heard this was good. And she has this love for the city. So every time you speak to her, she kind of talks like Venice is on this pedestal, and it's this hidden treasure that she has hidden in her pocket. So I think probably my most memorable thing that I'll take home is probably that kind of relationship, the things that I've heard. We've gotten even to talk about life, and her explaining to me that college is only the beginning. You don't know where you're going. It's not the means to an end. So I thought that was really amazing, and that hopefully is a relationship I'll continue.